Hi, I'm Chaya. I want to share with you a uber key in dealing with conflict in relationships. So crucial. So many people are wrecked by conflict in our relationships. Whether that be that we get avoidant of conflict, or maybe we're oversaturated with conflict. Either way, the specter of conflict in our relationships is one that's always looming there. But it doesn't have to be a specter. It could actually be a doorway to greater intimacy. So here's how we do it. Here's one way out of dealing with the pain of conflict and turning it into possibility and connection. So there's a beautiful teaching from Rebbe Nachman. And Rebbe Nachman talks about this idea called the truth of truths. He looks at the Sofei Tevot, the last letters of the first three words of the Torah. Bereshit bara Elohim, the last three letters spell out emet, which means truth. And from this he says that truth is actually what created the world. What created the world is emet. So there's a beautiful midrash that expands upon this idea of the world being created out of emet. It talks about in Midrash Rabbah, it talks about how God was getting ready to create mankind, and all of a sudden the angels were, in a fury, up in arms, saying, wait, you cannot do this. And one group of angels said, do it. Another group of angels said, don't do it. And so the reasoning of the group of angels that said, don't do it, was best put to eloquent expression by truth. The angel of truth stood up and said, you cannot create the world because the world is going to be full of falsehood. Don't do it, God. And so God basically takes truth and throws truth down to earth, down to the ground. And of course, the other angels are like in shock. They're like, what? How can you do this to truth? Like, he's like the greatest angel ever. What do you think you're doing? And God said, look, and he said, truth will rise from the ground. Okay, so this is kind of this wild and wonderful midrash. What does it mean? And here's where Rabbi Nachman takes it, and where I want to suggest we take it too. The idea is that yes, there is falsehood. Not only is there falsehood, but there's disagreements. Let's say one of you in your relationship has your truth, and your partner has a totally different truth. What are you supposed to do when it's not even that you're dealing with falsehoods, it's you're dealing with each person having their own truth, but yet they're creating conflict because we're different people. This is really where it gets quite painful. It's not that I'm trying to spread falsehoods, it's that I have a different truth than you and yours is different, and we're in conflict about that, and there's no way out and we feel stuck in it. But what is so beautiful about what Rabbi Nachman says is that he says there's the kind of truth that's based on I have my truth and you have your truth and we create conflict out of it, versus there's a kind of truth where I have your truth, I have my truth, and you have your truth, and by sharing those opposite and opposing truths, we actually come to greater intimacy. And Rabbi Nachman calls that emet la'amito, the truth of truths. And this is the goal, my friends, is the truth of truths, where we're able to have differences, and instead of those creating distance and pain, they actually can create intimacy and connection. So in the image of the midrash where truth is taken and thrown to the ground and sort of mangled, the beauty of what God says next is let truth grow from the ground. That there's a different type of truth that comes through our worldliness, that comes through our conflicts, that comes through our differences and even our painful differences. That's the truth of the ground. That's the truth on the ground. And it's what sprouts up when we have differences. And instead of running from them or instead of being wrecked by them, we are able to bridge the differences and create a truth that sprouts from the mulch, from the mulch of our lives and our challenges with each other. And I see this so many times working with couples where a couple will come in, and I was just with a couple the other day, and the husband was sick, and the wife felt so bad about having a hard time with him being sick, although it was legitimately hard. But instead of talking about the fact that it was hard for her, she just sort of shut down into herself, and she didn't want to get into the conflict of sharing with them about how his sickness, which he's dealing with, is actually hard for her. And so she just shut down, and it was creating all these problems in their relationship. And they're like, why are we having all these problems? And we realized that it was because she wasn't communicating her truth. She was afraid of the conflict that would arise, and she was holding it in. And because she wasn't sharing it, things were on their own falling apart. And so slowly, we learned how to share. They learned how to share their truths, and it created this wonderful intimacy. And then on the other side of the spectrum, I have so many couples come in who are just, it's all about conflict, and they're just exploding into another round of arguing. And again, the same thing can hold true. You can have your differences, and if communicated correctly and kindly and consciously, then those differences can create deeper connection. So that's what I want to share tonight. We're going to do a little mini workshop online just for 1 hour. It's just a quickest little dip into gaining a really powerful tool or two that you can apply directly to your relationship. So please sign up and be in touch about creating these, creating a shalom bayit, like a true peace in your home that's based on sharing of differences, not avoiding them, not being overwhelmed by them, but of building and letting the truth grow up from the ground. Thanks so much.